You ever have one of those days where you just want to come home, kick off your boots, and forget the world exists? That was me. Last Friday, I'd just finished a brutal week at work 12-hour shifts, back-to-back meetings. A boss who thought urgent meant drop everything and do it now. All I wanted was to pull into my reserved parking spot, the one with my name literally painted on the curb, and collapse on my couch with a cold drink. But as I turned the corner into the lot, my heart sank. There it was, a shiny, brand new white BMW parked diagonally across my spot like it owned the place. And not just any BMW, this one had a custom license plate that read HOA Queen. I slammed on the brakes, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I knew exactly whose car that was. It's Madison Lane, 35 years old, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, and the undisputed queen of making everyone's life miserable. She was the kind of person who'd send you a violation notice for having your blinds open at the wrong angle. The kind of person who'd fine you for leaving your trash can out 5 minutes past pickup. Now, apparently the kind of person who thought she could park wherever she wanted. Rules be damned. I sat there for a minute, engine idling, staring at that car, my spot, my name, my right. I could feel the anger bubbling up, hot and sharp, but I forced myself to breathe. This wasn't the first time Madison had pulled something like this. Last month, she'd blocked my driveway with her SUV just for a minute while she checked on a neighbor. The month before, she'd left a passive-aggressive note on my windshield about excessive dust on my car. But this was different. This was my space, and she knew it. I pulled into the guest parking, which was 3 buildings away, and trudged back to my apartment, my bag feeling twice as heavy as usual. As I passed Madison's unit, I could hear her voice loud, sharp, and unmistakable barking orders at. Someone on the phone? Oh. I don't care what the bylaws say. I'm the president. If I want to park there, I will. Tell him to take it up with the board. I clenched my jaw and kept walking, but the words stuck with me. If I want to park, there I will. Like the rules didn't apply to her. Inside, I paced my living room, trying to decide what to do. I could leave a note. I could call the HOA hotline, but Madison was the one who answered those calls. I could just let it go, but every part of me screamed that I shouldn't. Not this. Time? I pulled up my phone and snapped a picture of the BMW, the license plate, the sign with my name on it. Evidence. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but it felt good to have it. The next morning, the BMW was still there. I had to park in guest again, and this time, saw Madison strutting across the lot in a designer tracksuit, sunglasses perched on her head, coffee in hand. She saw me, smirked, and waved. Morning. Hope you don't mind. I had a late meeting. Last night, needed the close spot. She didn't even wait for a response, just breezed past me like I was invisible. That was it. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I pulled out my lease agreement, flipped to the section on parking, and read it 3 times just to be sure. Each unit had one reserved spot, clearly marked, and unauthorized vehicles would be towed at the owner's expense. No exceptions. I called the property management office, explained the situation, and sent them the photos. The manager, a tired-sounding woman named Linda, sighed. You're not the first person to complain about Madison. I'll call the towing. Compy, but you know how she is. She'll make a scene. I braced myself for the fallout. Sure enough, an hour later, I heard shouting from the parking lot. I looked out my window and saw Madison, arms flailing, screaming at the tow truck driver. You can't tow my car. I'm the HOA president. This is harassment. The driver, a burly guy with a shaved head and mirrored sunglasses, just shrugged and kept hooking up the BMW. Madison whipped out her phone and started filming, narrating the whole thing like she was the star of her own reality show. This is what happens when you stand up to bullies. I'm being targeted. Neighbors started to gather, drawn by the commotion. Some watched from their balconies, others stood in small groups, whispering. I could see a few people smirking, clearly enjoying the show. Madison was infamous in our complex, and more than a few residents had their own stories of her overreach. The tow truck driver finished securing the BMW and climbed into his cab. Madison planted herself in front of the truck, arms crossed, daring him to move. You're not going anywhere until I say so. That's when the police showed up. It's 2 squad cars, lights flashing, sirens off. The officers stepped out, calm and professional, but you could tell they'd dealt with Madison before. One of them, Officer Ramirez, approached her. "You need to step aside. You're obstructing a legal tow." Madison's face turned red. "I'm the HOA president. Have authority here." Officer Ramirez didn't flinch. "Not over private property, you don't. Please move." She refused. She started ranting about bylaws, her position, how she was being persecuted. The officer tried to reason with her, but Madison just got louder, her voice echoing across the lot. "This is discrimination. I'll have your badge for this." The crowd was growing, phones out, recording every second. I could feel my heart pounding, a mix of anxiety and vindication. This was it. It's a moment Madison finally faced consequences. Officer Ramirez gave her one last warning. "Ma'am, if you don't move, I'll have to place you under arrest for obstruction." Madison scoffed. "You wouldn't dare." The officer didn't hesitate. He signaled to his partner, and together they gently but firmly moved Madison aside. She screamed, "This is abuse. I'll sue all of you." But the tow truck pulled away, BMW in tow, leaving Madison standing in the middle of the lot, fuming. The lot was buzzing. People who'd never spoken to each other before were suddenly best friends, swapping stories about Madison's latest power trip. I watched from my window, half expecting her to storm up and start pounding on my door. Instead, she stood in the middle of the parking lot, fists clenched, chest heaving, her face a mask of pure rage. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then she spun on her heel and marched straight toward my building. I ducked back from the window, heart thumping. I didn't have to wait long. A few seconds later, there was a furious knock at my door, 3 sharp raps, like a judge's gavel. I opened it just a crack, enough to see her standing there, sunglasses pushed up on her head, hair wild, eyes blazing. "You think you're clever, don't you?" she spat, her voice low and venomous. "You think you can embarrass me? In front of the whole community? You have no idea who you're dealing with." I kept my voice calm, steady. "I just want my parking spot, Madison. That's all," she sneered. "You could have come to me, could have talked to me like an adult. But no, you had to go behind my back. You had to make a scene." I almost laughed. "You parked in my spot. The rules are clear." She leaned in, her voice dropping to a hiss. "You think this is over? It's not. I run this place. I can make your life very difficult." I didn't flinch. "I pay my dues. I follow the rules. Maybe you should try it." She glared at me for a long moment, then turned and stalked off, slamming the door behind her so hard the frame rattled. I let out a shaky breath, adrenaline still surging. I knew this wasn't the end. Madison wasn't the type to let things go. She'd be plotting her revenge already. Sure enough, the next day, I found a violation notice taped to my door. "Improper window coverings," it read. "Failure to maintain landscaping. Noise complaint excessive volume after 10 p.m. All bogus, all signed by Madison Lane, HOA president." I crumpled the notice in my fist, feeling the anger rise again. This was her game, her res intimidate. Bully until you gave up or moved out. But I wasn't going anywhere. I started documenting everything. Every notice, every interaction, every time I saw her car circling the lot like a shark. I talked to my neighbors, and it turned out I wasn't alone. Madison had been targeting people for months, anyone who questioned her, anyone who stood up to her. She'd fined Mrs. Patel in 2B for unauthorized garden gnomes. She'd threatened to evict the Johnsons in 3C for unapproved holiday decorations. She'd even called the police on a teenager for skateboarding in the common area. The more I learned, the angrier I got. This wasn't just about a parking spot anymore. It was about standing up to a bully who thought she was above the law. That evening, I was sitting on my balcony, watching the sun dip behind the trees, when I heard the screech of tires. Madison's BMW was back, freshly retrieved from the impound lot, gleaming in the fading light. She parked it this time, not my spot, but in the fire lane, right in front of the building entrance. She got out, slammed the door, and stormed inside, not even glancing at the no parking fire lane sign. I shook my head. Some people never learn. 15 minutes. Later, there was a commotion downstairs. Heard voices, angry, urgent. Went down to see what was happening. Madison was in the lobby, arguing with a delivery driver whose van was blocked by her BMW. The driver, a young guy with a stack of pizza boxes, was pleading with her to move her car. Madison just waved him off. "I'll move it when I'm ready. I have important business to attend to." The driver looked helpless. "Ma'am, I have other deliveries. You're blocking the entrance?" Madison rolled her eyes. "Not my problem." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "You know you're parked in a fire lane, right?" I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. She turned on me, eyes narrowing. "Mind your own business." "It is my business," I replied. "You're blocking emergency access. That's a violation of city code," she scoffed. "Go ahead, call the cops. See if I care." So I did. I dialed the non-emergency police line, explained the situation, and gave them the address. The dispatcher assured me an officer would be there shortly. Madison glared at me, but I just shrugged. "You said to call the cops." 10 minutes later, a patrol car rolled up, lights flashing. Officer Daniels stepped out, a tall woman with a no-nonsense attitude. She took one look at the BMW, then at Madison, and sighed. "Ma'am, you can't park here. This is a fire lane." Madison launched into her usual tirade. "I'm the HOA president. I have authority here. I was only here for a minute." Officer Daniels shook her head. "Doesn't matter. Fire lanes are for emergency vehicles only. Need you to move your car right now." Madison crossed her arms. "I'm not moving it. I have a right to be here." Officer Daniels raised an eyebrow. "If you don't move it, I'll have to issue a citation and call for a tow." Madison laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "You wouldn't dare." Officer Daniels didn't blink. "Try me." The standoff lasted a few tense seconds. Madison, red-faced and fuming, finally stomped outside, muttering under her breath. She got in her car, slammed the door, and peeled out of the fire lane, tires squealing. Officer Daniels watched her go, then turned to me and the delivery driver. "Sorry about that. Some people think the rules don't apply to them." I nodded. "She's been like this for months." Officer Daniels made a note in her pad. "If she does it again, call us. We'll handle it." As the patrol car pulled away, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. For the first time, Madison hadn't gotten her way. Our rules had won, at least for now. The next few days were tense. Madison was quieter than usual, but her silence felt like the calm before a storm. She didn't park in my spot again, but I'd catch her watching me from her window, her gaze cold and calculating. The other residents noticed it too. The air in the building was thick with anticipation. It's like everyone was waiting for the next explosion. I kept up my routine, refusing to let her see me sweat. I parked in my spot every night, double-checked my doors, and kept my phone charged. Ready? I even started chatting more with my neighbors, building a quiet alliance. We shared stories, compared violation notices, and swapped tips on how to deal with Madison's latest schemes. It felt good to know I wasn't alone then. On Thursday night, everything changed. I came home late, exhausted from another long day. As I pulled into the lot, I saw flashing lights, red and blue, bouncing off the windows. My stomach dropped. For a split second, I thought Madison had called the police on me, maybe for some made-up infraction. But as I got closer, I realized the commotion was centered around the fire lane again. Madison's BMW was there, parked at an angle, blocking not just the entrance, but also the hydrant. A fire truck was idling nearby, its crew standing around, looking frustrated. 2 police cruisers were parked behind the BMW, and a small crowd had gathered, whispering and pointing. I parked quickly and hurried over, heart pounding. Officer Daniels was there, talking to the fire captain. Madison was pacing back and forth, phone pressed to her ear, shouting at someone, probably the towing company or maybe her lawyer. Her face was flushed, her hair a mess, and her voice carried across the lot. "This is harassment. I'm being targeted. Demand to speak to your supervisor." The fire captain, a grizzled man with a gray mustache, shook his head. "Ma'am, you're blocking emergency access. If there had been a fire, you could have cost lives." Madison wasn't listening. She was too busy ranting about her rights, her position, her authority. Officer Daniels tried to calm her down, but Madison just got louder, her words tumbling over each other in a torrent of indignation. That's when the tow truck arrived. The driver, the same burly guy from before, hopped. Altan started hooking up the BMW. Madison lost it. She ran over, waving her arms, trying to block him. "Can't tow my car. I'm the HOA president. I'll have your job for this." The driver didn't even look at her. He just kept working, methodical and unbothered. Officer Daniels stepped in, gently but firmly moving Madison aside. "Ma'am, you need to calm down. You're interfering with a police action." Madison's eyes flashed. "This is a setup. You're all in on it. I know my rights." The crowd was growing, phones out, recording every second. Someone whispered, "She's finally getting what she deserves." Another person muttered, "About time." The tow truck driver finished securing the BMW and started to raise it onto the flatbed. Madison screamed, "No. Stop. That's my car." She lunged forward, but Officer Daniels caught her arm, holding her back. "Ma'am, if you don't calm down, I'll have to detain you for interfering with emergency services," Officer Daniels warned. Madison yanked her arm away, glaring at everyone. "You're all against me. This is a witch hunt." The fire captain stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Ma'am, you put lives at risk tonight. If there had been an emergency, we wouldn't have been able to get through. This isn't about you. It's about safety." For a moment, Madison looked like she might break down. Her shoulders slumped, her eyes darted around, searching for support, but the crowd was silent, watching, waiting. No one came to her defense. The tow truck pulled away, BMW in tow, and Madison was left standing in the middle of the lot, alone and humiliated. Officer Daniels handed her a citation, explaining the fines and the process for retrieving her car. Madison snatched the paper, crumpling it in her fist. As the emergency vehicles left, the crowd slowly dispersed. I lingered for a moment, watching Madison. She looked smaller, somehow deflated. For the first time, I saw a crack in her armor. I went inside, feeling a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. I knew this wasn't the end. People like Madison didn't give up easily. But for tonight, at least, the rules had won. The next morning, I found another violation notice on my door. This one was even more ridiculous. Unauthorized use of balcony furniture. I laughed out loud. Madison was nothing if not persistent. I took a picture of the notice, added it to my growing file, and sent it to Linda at the property management office. She replied almost immediately. "We are aware of the situation. Please continue to document everything. We're working on a solution." I wasn't sure what that meant, but it gave me hope. Maybe, just maybe, Madison's reign was coming to an end. That weekend, I decided to take action. I printed out copies of the parking rules, highlighted the relevant sections, and slipped them under every door in the building. I included a note: we all deserve to feel safe and respected. In our community, if you've experienced issues with parking or HOA enforcement, please reach out. You're not alone. The response was overwhelming. My neighbors started knocking on my door, sharing their own stories, offering support. We formed a group chat, started attending HOA meetings together, and pushed back against Madison's arbitrary rules. For the first time, the community felt united. Madison tried to fight back, but the tide had turned. The more she pushed, the more people resisted. The board started questioning her decisions. The property manager began investigating her complaints. And the police made it clear they wouldn't tolerate her abuse of power. It wasn't over yet, but for the first time, I felt like we had a chance. The following week, the atmosphere in Willow Creek shifted. It was subtle at first. A few more smiles in the hallway, neighbors lingering to chat, a sense of camaraderie that hadn't existed before. Even the air felt lighter, as if the whole building had exhaled after holding its breath for too long. But Madison, true to form, wasn't about to let her grip slip without a fight. On Tuesday morning, I woke to the sound of a car alarm blaring. I looked out my window and saw Madison's BMW, freshly returned from the impound lot, parked in the fire lane again. This time, the alarm was shrieking, echoing off the buildings, and Madison was outside, casing in her robe, phone pressed too. Her ear? She was yelling at someone, maybe the alarm company, maybe the police, maybe both. Her frustration was palpable, her anger radiating like heat. I watched as a few neighbors gathered at their windows, some shaking their heads, others just watching the spectacle. It was almost routine by now, but there was a new energy in the sense that people were no longer afraid of her. I grabbed my phone and started recording. just in case. Within minutes, a police cruiser pulled up. This time, it was Officer Ramirez again, looking tired but determined. He approached Madison, who immediately launched into a tirade. "This is harassment. Someone tampered with my car. Demand you arrest whoever did this." Officer Ramirez listened patiently, then glanced at the car. "Ma'am, your vehicle is illegally parked in a fire lane. Again, I'm going to have to issue another citation and call for a tow." Madison's face twisted in disbelief. "You can't do this. I'm the HOA president. I have rights, officer." Ramirez didn't flinch. "You have the same rights as everyone else, ma'am. The law applies to all residents regardless of position." She stomped her foot, her voice rising. "This is a personal vendetta. You're all conspiring against me." The officer remained calm. "Ma'am, please step aside so the tow truck can do its job," Madison refused, planting herself in front of the BMW, arms crossed. "I'm not moving. I'll have to drag me away." Officer Ramirez sighed, then radioed for backup. Within minutes, another cruiser arrived, and 2 more officers stepped out. The crowd of neighbors grew, some filming, others just watching in stunned silence. The tension was electric. One of the new officers, a woman with a firm but kind demeanor, approached Madison. "Ma'am, you are obstructing a police action. If you do not comply, we will have to detain you." Madison glared at her, then at the crowd. "You're all going to regret this. I'll have every one of you written up for harassment." The officer didn't blink. "Last warning, ma'am." For a moment, it looked like Madison might back down, but then, with a dramatic flourish, she sat down on the hood of her BMW, arms folded, daring anyone to move her. The crowd gasped. Someone whispered, "She's lost it." Officer Ramirez and his partner exchanged a look, then gently but firmly lifted Madison off the car. She kicked and screamed, her voice echoing across the lot. "This is assault. I'll sue. I'll have your badges." The officers remained professional, guiding her to the side and handcuffing her for her own safety. Madison's eyes darted around, searching for sympathy, but found none. The tow truck arrived, and the driver, now a familiar face, quickly hooked up the BMW and hauled it away. As the police led Madison to the cruiser, she shouted over her shoulder, "This isn't over. We'll be back. You'll all pay for this." The crowd watched in silence as the cruiser pulled away, Madison's voice fading into the distance. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, people began to clap. Started with 1 or 2. Then spread until the whole lot was filled with applause. It wasn't just about the car or the parking spot, or even Madison herself. It was about standing up for what was right, about reclaiming a sense of community. After the excitement died down, I found myself surrounded by neighbors, all eager to talk. Mrs. Patel from Tabi hugged me, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. We needed someone to stand up to her. Others shared similar sentiments. The Johnsons from 3 Celsius brought over cookies. Even the delivery driver from the other night stopped by to shake my hand. "You did good," he said. "Not many people would have had the guts." That evening, the building felt different. Doors were open, laughter echoed in the halls, and for the first time in a long time, Willow Creek felt like home. But as I sat on my balcony, watching the sunset, I couldn't shake the feeling that Madison wasn't done. People like her didn't just disappear. They regrouped, plotted, and came back stronger. I knew I had to stay vigilant, to keep documenting, to keep standing up not just for myself, but for everyone who called this place home. The next morning, a notice appeared on the community bulletin board. So it's from the property management company, not Madison. Effective immediately, all HOA complaints and enforcement actions will be reviewed by an independent committee. No single board member may issue citations or fines without committee approval. Residents are encouraged to report any concerns directly to management. It was a small victory, but a meaningful one. The rules were finally being enforced fairly, and Madison's power was slipping away. The days that followed felt like a new beginning for Willow Creek. The tension that had once gripped the building was gone, replaced by a cautious optimism. Neighbors who used to avoid each other in the hallways now stopped to chat, sharing stories and laughter. The group chat we'd started was buzzing with messages, memes about HOA Queen. "Hey, updates on the new committee, and even plans for a community barbecue. For the first time since I'd moved in, I felt like I belonged. But Madison's absence was a shadow that lingered. Her unit stayed dark, the blinds drawn tight. Occasionally, I'd see her car now parked legally, far from the fire lane come and go, but she kept to herself. The rumors swirled. Some said she was suspended from the HOA board. Others claimed she was facing fines from the city. No one really knew, and honestly, no one seemed to care. The important thing was that her reign of intimidation was over. One evening, as I was taking out the trash, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see Madison, arms crossed, standing at the edge of the lot. She looked different, tired, her usual confidence replaced by something brittle and uncertain. She didn't say anything at first, just stared at me, her jaw set. "Okay." I waited, unsure what to expect. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and sharp. "You think you won, don't you?" I met her gaze, steady. "It's not about winning, Madison. It's about everyone being treated fairly. It's all anyone ever wanted." She scoffed, but there was no real venom in it. "You embarrassed me. You turned everyone against me." I shook my head. "You did that yourself. People just got tired of being bullied." For a moment, she looked like she might argue, but then her shoulders slumped. "You have no idea what it's like trying to keep this place together. No one listens, no one follows the rules. I was just trying to make things better. Almost." I felt a flicker of sympathy, but I remembered the threats, the bogus violations, the way she'd treated everyone like they were beneath her. There's a difference between leadership and control, Madison. Maybe now you'll see that. She glared at me, but there was no fight left in her. Without another word, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the building. That was the last real conversation I had with Madison Lane. The weeks rolled on, and life at Willow Creek settled into a new rhythm, the independent. Committee took over, and suddenly the flood of violation notices stopped. The rules were still enforced, but fairly and with compassion. People started to take pride in the community. Gang gardens flourished. Kids played in the courtyard, and the constant anxiety that had hung over us all simply faded away. One Saturday, the community barbecue finally happened. The smell of burgers and hot dogs drifted through the air, and laughter echoed across the lot. I stood by the grill, flipping burgers, when Officer Daniels stopped by. She smiled, accepting a plate from Mrs. Patel. "Looks like things are finally settling down around here," she said, glancing around at the happy crowd. I nodded. "It's amazing what a little accountability can do." She grinned, "And a little courage. You did good, you know." Not everyone would have stood up to someone like her. I shrugged, feeling a little embarrassed by the attention. "Gauss, wanted my parking spot back?" Officer Daniels laughed. "Sometimes that's all it takes to start a revolution." As the sun set and the party wound down, I looked around at my neighbors, people who had once been strangers, now friends. I realized that the real victory wasn't just getting Madison's car towed, or even seeing her lose her power. The real victory was the community we'd built together, the sense of belonging and respect that had grown from standing up to a bully. Later that night, as I parked in my spot with my name still painted on the curb, I sat for a moment, engine off, just listening to the quiet. The lot was peaceful, the building glowing with warm light. I thought about everything that had happened, the frustration, the anger, the fear, and finally, the relief. I realized that sometimes the hardest battles aren't the ones fought in courtrooms or with fists, but the ones fought with patience, persistence, and a refusal to back down. Sometimes all it takes is one person saying, "Enough," to inspire others to do the same. As I locked my car and headed inside, I glanced back at the empty fire lane, the spot where Madison's BMW had once sat like a symbol of her power. Now, it was just a patch of asphalt, no different from any other, and for the first time, I felt truly at home. The next morning, I woke to find a note slipped under my door. It was from the new HOA committee, thanking me for my courage and leadership in helping restore fairness and community spirit to Willow Creek. They'd even included a gift card to my favorite coffee shop. I smiled, tucking the note into my drawer. It wasn't about recognition or rewards. It was about knowing that I'd made a difference, not just for myself, but for everyone who called this place home. And as I sipped my coffee on the balcony, watching the sun rise over the quiet, peaceful lot, I knew that whatever challenges came next, I wouldn't face them alone. So, that's my story, how a parking spot turned into a battle for fairness, and how standing up to one bully brought a whole community together. Maybe you've dealt with your own HOA queen, or maybe you're just tired of people who think the rules don't apply to them. Either way, here's what I learned. Sometimes, it's the smallest act of courage, like making a phone call or saying, enough can spark real change. If you're listening right now and you're facing your own Madison, remember, you're not alone. Document everything. Know your rights. Ready to stand with you? Have you ever had to stand up to someone in your community? Did you ignore? Did you learn something along the way? I'd love to hear your stories. Drop a comment, send me a message, or share this episode with someone who needs a little inspiration to fight back. And hey, you enjoyed this story? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. Helps more people find the show and, who knows, maybe it'll help someone else reclaim their own parking spot. Thanks for listening. Till next time, remember, sometimes all it takes is one person to say, "This is my spot," and mean it.